we fade in from black into a massive cavern. Up high, you don't see rocky ceilings. What you see is molten magma flowing in all directions. Underneath that, you see some rolling ash clouds gathering in the sky. And in front of us is a balcony. And there's a lady, blue skinned, blue hair with horns, standing at the balcony looking out into a gargantuan underground city.
Hi there folks, Sam here, and welcome to our crowdfunder for a Refugee's Guide to Nomas. What is that? Well, it's a third-party city supplement for Drawsteel. What's that? Well, Drawsteel is a tactical heroic cinematic fantasy RPG from the folks over at MCDM. If you're not familiar with it, we really recommend checking it out. We love it, we play it, that's why we're making this product for it. And that brings us to the third-party part. We don't work for MCDM, we're just producing this under the open license, which you can find on our page. What's a city supplement? Well, for us, this means we're giving you a setting, which is a city, and it also means we're giving you a bunch of cool new rules and mechanics to use in your games. So this is a book that will absolutely be useful or fun for a player to pick up, but it's definitely aimed at directors, people who are running games and who want to, if I'm being honest, probably cannibalise a lot of this for their own games. And some will hopefully want to run in the cool setting we're given. But that's what this product is first and foremost. What is in it? Well, we've got a bunch of chapters. We've got 5, I believe, at the moment. And we've got a little preview of each of those. So we've got our introduction to Nomas, which tells you a little bit about the city. So there's a couple of things to know about Nomas. The most obvious one is the fact that the sky is made of molten lava, or the city is upside down and the floor is made of lava. It's definitely one of those. The city is also filled with psionics, which is to say pretty much everyone who's born in the city or who spends enough time there develops psychic powers. That's something that's quite keyed into the rules. As any of you who know Drosty will know, you've got talents, and nulls are psionic classes in the game, and there are a bunch of psionic monsters and psionic treasures and things as well. What that means for Nomas is that it's not magic or science that pushes forward technology here, but it's psionics. Things like boats that you navigate with your mind rather than steering with your hands. Lifts that you raise up using the power of telekinesis rather than a pulley system. It's also a city that stands at the nexus of a bunch of planar gates. So this is a really convenient way for you to get to Nomas if you're not starting a campaign there. But it's also a really cool hub to then venture out. And the gates in this book, you'll get an overview of each of them, and you'll learn about the people who came through them to join the city. But we're not going to explore what's on the other side of them beyond telling you what world it is. This is not going to be a massive book. It's going to give you stuff you need to run in the city, and then hopefully down the line, if we do well, we'll be able to bring more stuff to you and explore what's going on in those other worlds. I said we had lore chapter. We also have a life in Nomas chapter. And that talks about currency, governance, the weather. Is that stuff important? We think it is. We think it's at least relevant. And things like the weather can tie into your conduits and your sensors, if they've got the storm domain, and it's just good for the DM to describe what's going on. And it also gives a bit of depth to the city. We also have districts, which is a chapter, and we cover the 7 districts in the city. And in the preview, we give you one of them. We give you Riem's Tears, which is a city primarily inhabited by Naya, who are our merfolk, and it's half sunken. So, there's some floating shops, there's underwater, businesses and things. And that was a district we chose to start with because it's probably the weirdest. It's one of the weirdest. It's a little bit weird. And we wanted to give you an idea of that's the kind of things you can expect in this city. Why can there be a district that's half underwater? Well, apart from the fact people are merfolk, they're psionic, and their psionic traits we'll cover in the heroes section. But in these district chapters, you're going to get a bit about the history of this district. You get a bit about the important NPCs that live there. You're also going to get some unique locations. So those locations, I think there's 3 in the preview chapter. They're going to tell you a bit about what you can buy there or see there. But they're also going to come with a rating, which is going to give you a number for renown and a number for wealth. And that's going to dictate how you interact with those places as heroes. If you don't have enough renown, and let's say you're going to try and enter the prison, not as an inmate, they're going to go, well, who are you? You don't have a right to be here. But if you're a famous hero, well, come right in, have a wee meeting with the warden. If you don't have the right wealth score, you can't spend money here to make an impact. You can spend money, but it's not going to do anything. So if you want to make a donation to a church that actually is an impact and earns you favours, you're going to have this wealth score. If you want to bribe an official here, you're going to have to meet that wealth score. Let's say that you don't have the renown to get into that prison, but you want to get in anyway. You need to have the wealth score to put in that bribe. And we thought it was a really cool way of taking rules that are already there, expanding them out, and giving you a cool new way of using them. We also have a factions chapter, where we have the Ashes. Now, the Ashes are one of our factions in the city, and we explain in the book that there's loads of organisations. What makes an organisation a faction is when they are a disruptive influence or a force for change. If they're actively taking part in the city to mix things up. So in our example, we have the Ashes, who are a criminal organisation. Think, the Rakdos from Ravnica meets Gotham. They're anarchists, they're thieves, they're, cat burglars, and we give you a bit of information on what they're about and, their relationships to other factions, their goals, and then we give you 3 NPCs that you can meet and interact with, and we give you a little mechanic for each of them. So for our Ashes example, we have the leader of the organisation, and we provide his negotiation stats. For another, we give you an informant, and we give you their the test required to interrogate them and the consequence of what can happen if you fail. And we also give you a member of that faction who is a villain, and we give you her villainous goals, which are hooks for adventures amongst other things, but also motivations if you choose to use that character as an NPC. We also have our Heroes chapter, as I mentioned before, and Heroes of Nomas has primarily got 5 new ancestries in it. You're only going to get to see 1 in this preview, the Naya. So as I mentioned before, the Naya are merfolk, and they have some natural affinity for the water, but given this is the Psionic City, they also have the trait Natural Metamorph. And what that means is, unlike other ancestries who pick their purchased traits and they get stuck with their signature trait, if you're one of the Naya, you get the signature trait that allows you to change your purchased traits. That's a tongue twister. So for example, you might take Slippery, which allows you to disengage easier. You may also take Coral Skin, which allows you to deal damage to those who hurt you. And suddenly you're in a situation where they don't seem that useful. Well, you can then change them using your maneuver into perhaps Toxin Resistance, which gives you poison immunity, or perhaps into the ability to breathe and swim underwater. Sound cool? That's the Naya. And last but not least, we have Enemies Within, which is our Monsters and Villains chapter. Now for this preview, we only have 1, and that is Belor the Dream Drowned. Now Belor is a Fomor, which is another of our ancestries in Nomas, and the Fomor are giants, in this case Hakan, who continue to pursue foresight and were then cursed with far more than they bargained for. They never seem to learn. Belor in particular is one who chooses to follow the futures that benefit him most, even at the expense of others, and that's what makes him a villain. Take a look at this preview, see if there's stuff you like, see if there's anything that inspires you, and if it does, fantastic. And if you want to back the project, please do. How can you back us? Well, we have 3 different pledge levels. We have our Citizen pledge level, which is where you can back us just because you want the product. You get the PDF, that's you, with a little caveat. At our Councillor level, you get the PDFs, but you also get access to our playtests. You don't just get the finished product at the end, you get to be part of the process along the way. And lastly, we have our Saint of the City pledge level, where you get the PDF, you also get access to the playtests, but you also unlock 2 free copies for the community. I mentioned a little caveat earlier. All of these PDFs come with a print code. Now that print code lets you get a print-on-demand copy of the book at cost. So we don't get a cut of that, you just pay that to have it literally printed. Now, why are we doing that? We're not a publisher in the business of making books. So we aren't going to do any kind of offset print run or anything, but we wanted to give people the opportunity, including ourselves, to hold a physical copy of this, to see this amazing art in print, and to just have something cool to put on their shelf, even just for the team who's working on the book. You know, open up, see your name, fantastic. The quality of the print on demand is pretty good. It's not as amazing as an offset print run would be, but it's pretty good. It's also optional. If you're quite happy with your PDF, just stick with the PDF. But if you want to pay that little bit extra for a physical copy, we want you to be able to do that at cost. And that's it. You now know as much as I know about this entire project. Not quite. But that is the overview, and it's basically my pitch to you to come along on this adventure with us. We're being ambitious, we're asking for, I think, a decent amount of money, but we're also telling you where it's going. It's going on people, going on editors, sensitivity readers, artists, some of whom are already part of our team. Our stretch goals include a More Monsters stretch goal, which will unlock 5 unique villains. Although we're playing with the term dastards because we've heard MCDM are doing it. And one of those is name dropped, the aforementioned Quinn from the Ashes. If we hit that stretch goal, she'll have her own stat block to go along with those nice villainous goals. And we have one more stretch goal, which is Sam and Shuv get paid. So, hey, Sam, Shuv is my partner in this enterprise, and without him the book wouldn't exist. I am the lead designer. I come up with a lot of ideas for this. I've developed the mechanics and done a lot of the writing, but Shuv is the mind behind it. He's driving production, he's done the layout, he's liaised with artists, great liaised with the community, podcasts, actual plays, all that stuff, all Shuv. This campaign, all Shuv. If we hit that tier, we actually get paid out the project, which would be nice. But ultimately, we're not trying to make a living here. We'll settle for funding. And you can help us with that. So if you can, if you want to, hop on over to the page and pledge to back us. We would much appreciate it. Cheers, folks.